It's going to be a belter, this. Billam-Smith against Okolie. I'm delighted to say down at Bournemouth right now, waiting to speak to us, is CEO of BOXXER. Of course, he is Ben Shalom, alongside our very own Spencer Oliver. Spencer, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Ben. Spencer, here's the thing. Billam-Smith against Okolie. Is this as close to a 50-50 fight as we're ever going to get?
Absolutely. You know, Lawrence Okolie's last fight against David Light, he didn't look particularly impressive. You know, Chris Billam-Smith's in form at the moment. He's got good momentum going with him, and home advantage for me could be crucial down there. There's going to be 15,000 fans at the packed-out Vitality Stadium, and I'm expecting something really special. And those fans could be the key for a victory for Chris Billam-Smith, because I think it's one of those fights that both guys are going to have to go through some dark times, some tough times, and Billam-Smith's going to need that crowd to pull him through. And it's going to be, it's going to be an electric atmosphere down here. But this is a 50-50 fight. It's a real flip 'em. Shane McGuigan, who trains Chris Billam-Smith now, used to train Lawrence Okolie. He says, you know, that he knows things about Okolie. He knows Okolie's weaknesses. Is he trying to play the psychological battle, or could that be key as well? I mean, really interesting contest, this one.
Ben, good afternoon to you. We see you there standing beside Spencer, who curiously is wearing sunglasses, even though it's very overcast in Bournemouth. Ben,
yeah, exactly.
These two fighters,
it's a late night, Jim.
These two fighters like each other, Ben. Is that always a slightly more difficult fight to promote? You want a bit of jeopardy, a bit of nastiness, do you not?
You do, but you never get a fight like this. When we first signed Lawrence Okolie, did we ever think he was going to fight Chris Billam-Smith? Absolutely not. And the animosity, I think, has come more from Lawrence Okolie towards Shane McGuigan. I think that's what sparks why this fight is happening. Lawrence made it clear that he would fight Chris Billam-Smith, and then as soon as Lawrence had that performance at David Light, Chris Billam-Smith was on the phone. I want that fight. I want it in the stadium. Lawrence has taken it on 7 weeks' notice as well. It's a perfect fight for both of them. But as Spencer said, for me, Lawrence Okolie, whatever you might say about him, he is still widely considered the best cruiserweight in the world. But a lack of momentum, a change of trainer, a change of promoter, a change of country, all these things add in towards Chris Billam-Smith's favour. And obviously, he has a trainer, Shane McGuigan, that knows Lawrence Okolie better than anyone. I think that's what makes this so interesting.
Ben, there's going to have to be a marked improvement, though, from Lawrence, isn't there? On the last outing against David Light, I know there's a lot of reasons behind that, and that he's been out of the ring for a period of time, dealing with other issues in and around his contract with previous promoters. But in order for Lawrence to come through this fight, he's got to do it two ways, I suspect. He's got to do it and win it, but he's also got to do it with an element of style, because there is a background noise about Lawrence and some of his performances, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's what Saturday night's about for him. I was speaking to Sugar Hill and I said, Sugar, you know, we need a different performance from Lawrence Okolie. We need to see a different Lawrence Okolie, and that's what they've been working on. You know, Lawrence knows he needs to make a statement, not just to win, as you say, Simon. He needs to show why people should watch his fights. Boxing is entertainment after all. He believes he's the best cruiserweight in the world. Many people do. But if people aren't going to follow him the way they follow Chris Billam-Smith and fill out stadiums the way they will for Chris Billam-Smith, then he won't have the superstar future that he wants to have. And yes, Saturday night is a lot of pressure on him, because yes, he needs to win, but he needs to put on an absolute statement that he can be explosive. It's
a great environment, though, isn't it? I mean, he is going to be the person on the receiving end of the focus in terms of all the support really is going to be for Chris, isn't it? Yeah. Lawrence going to thrive in that environment?
He needed it. He absolutely needed it. He really felt it in March. I mean, the wave of criticism was unprecedented, even for Lawrence, and he knew that he needed to jump straight back in there. And what better opportunity than to go into the Lions Den? As you say, 15,000 Bournemouth fans. We came here for last year in the Bick Arena, and the noise was just incredible. So God knows what Saturday night's going to be like. But I do believe Lawrence loves this sort of stuff. I do believe this is where he thrives. I think he wants to be the villain, and he wants to knock Chris Billam-Smith out in 6-7 rounds and spoil the party. And that's where I think we might see the best Lawrence.
Some people do feed off that hostile environment, don't they? And like Lawrence Okolie is one of those fighters that, you know, he does feed off that, and I think that he knows what he's coming into down here. He knows how popular Chris Billam-Smith is down here, and you know, he's prepared for all of that. It's one of those, yeah, so it's a really intriguing fight for a number of reasons, and yeah, this fight is about Chris Billam-Smith just winning anyhow he can. But for Lawrence Okolie, it's not about just winning. After his last performance, it's about winning and winning in style. He needs to win those fans back. I think that's really important for Lawrence.
Well, is there a rematch? I was going to ask Simon before we came on air, so I'll ask you two. Where are we at with that, Ben? What happens to the winner? What happens to the loser?
You know what? I actually expect a mandatory to be called straight after this fight, and Richard Riakporhe is the mandatory for the winner. So Richard's going to be here on Saturday night. For me, he is the most talented cruiserweight without a world title. He is ferociously explosive. We've seen him just develop unbelievably over the past 18 months. He wants to fight the winner of this fight. That's where I see it going, if I'm honest. It really is an all-or-nothing fight for me, and that's what's so much on the line. Like, that's why Lawrence Okolie, who's taken this fight, sorry, this phone's going off, who's taken this fight on a voluntary basis, and he's taken this fight where he doesn't need to. He can wait for his mandatories. He can wait for unifications. He's putting it all on the line. There isn't a necessary rematch in this one, and as I say, that's what makes it so dangerous for Lawrence.
Spence, you and I have spoken about this fight in the rounds. How do you see it going? Ultimately, who do you think is going to win this fight?
Do you know what, Simon? This is a really tough one to call, because I expect Lawrence Okolie to be so much better than he was last time against David Light. You know, there was that inactivity he had before that fight in the build-up. He had a lot of problems behind the scenes, and that showed in his performance. But he knows what's on the line here. There's a lot of ego on the line, you know, with Shane McGuigan previously training both of them. Both guys are super confident. They both believe they know the other one's weaknesses. They both believe they're going to win, and I truly believe that. Where do I sit with this? I think Billam-Smith's going to pull off a memorable victory. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be close, and it could be messy at times. But I just think that Billam-Smith will find a way to win, and I think he'll grind out a victory. But, you know, saying that, he's got to be careful he doesn't walk onto that big right hand of Okolie, because Okolie has that one-punch knockout power. Yeah, but I'm leaning towards Smith for a memorable night here in Bournemouth.
You know what? I would have always said Lawrence Okolie all day.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you speak to as well Shane McGuigan, and he doesn't mince his words, I have many fighters with Shane, and he'll tell me exactly what level they're at. He'll never mess around. He is so confident on Saturday night, and that's what makes me think this guy knows both fighters better than anyone. And yeah, maybe we will see the dream win that Chris could only have dreamt of 12 months ago. He's really creating a legacy down here, and it would be an unbelievable moment.
I think what it is Lawrence Okolie, like, he's so awkward, and fighters don't realise how awkward he is until they actually box. Chris Billam-Smith has sparred hundreds of rounds with him. He knows how awkward he is, and he knows how to get round that, and that was really interesting. I was having breakfast with Chris this morning, and he was talking about that. You know, I was saying to him, how do you deal with, you know, the awkwardness, the getting tied up on the inside? He said, well, that's where I'm at my advantage. I understand it. I know exactly what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, you know, and he goes, I know how to deal with that. I'm great at working on the inside. He is supremely confident, and yeah, it's just one of those. It's going to be a great contest.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.